Hi everyone, my name is Martin MacDonald and I am the new music director of the Cathedral Bluffs Symphony Orchestra, and I'm just so pleased and honored and privileged to join this absolutely wonderful group of musicians right here in East Toronto, which is also my home. And I know that we're going to have lots of wonderful concerts and years of music making together, and for you as well. We have a concert coming up on Saturday, April the 9th. It is my first concert as music director of the CBSO, and what a concert to begin a music directorship with. We have an absolutely epic program for you of fantastic, colorful, evocative music. I'm sure you're going to enjoy every single moment of it. We're going to start the program with a piece by a Canadian composer by the name of Glenn Burr. And Glenn Burr wrote this piece in 1989. It was a CBC commission premiered by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and it's called Akasha, or Sky. Now, it's a very evocative work. It's very pretty. It's you get the feeling of this of sort of a glittery landscape within the music. Now, the word Akasha is the Sanskrit word for sky. However, in some other religions and cultures, it has some other meanings as well. It can mean literally big open space. As well, in some other religions, it's actually translated to the cosmos and referring to what's beyond our world. And when you listen to this piece, you can interpret it in many different ways. You certainly get the sense of, all of the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and, with air and sky sort of being this element that we're creating. And you sort of can imagine, when I listen to it, I imagine, sitting myself back, lying back on a cold winter's night, staring up into the bright night sky with all the stars in full display. Perhaps you're somewhere in the prairies where you have, big sky to look at. Perhaps you can envision the northern lights as you listen to the music, because you'll hear this wash of sound that sort of trickles down from the top, and these sort of moving chorales that happen in the brass. It's a wonderful piece of music that has been played countless times and is really become a wonderful staple, a great staple in the Canadian orchestral literature. And for me, when I was programming, I kind of felt, this was a good representation of Earth, and not only of Earth, but as we look from Earth to the sky. Because as we'll talk about later in the planets, Gustav Holst never wrote a movement for Earth. So this was a very good representation. This is a very good representation of Earth, and as we look up into the sky to what is beyond our atmosphere. The second piece in the program, we are so lucky to have a beautiful, beautiful voice with us. The wonderful soloist Danielle McMillan. She's a mezzo-soprano, and she is the winner of the 2019 Clifford Pool vocal competition. And because of the pandemic and cancellations and restrictions, it's taken us a while to get Danielle to our stage, but we are so happy that we're finally getting to do this. We are going to do Gustav Mahler's Songs of a Wayfarer, and they are 4 absolutely incredible songs. So poignant, so touching, and so personal. Now, these songs, interestingly, can be sung by either a mezzo-soprano or a baritone. He scored it for both voices because both are sort of in the mid-range of their voice types. And Mahler was quite autobiographical when he wrote these songs. He wrote all of the poetry himself. And the songs were actually written before the first symphony. So you'll actually hear lots of snippets of music. If you're familiar with the Mahler Titan Symphony, his first symphony, definitely lots of usage from these songs. And the songs themselves and the poetry really have to do with this sense of loss, sense of sorrow. Mahler and was very clearly going through some troubling times at this time when it had to do with his own personal life. And so the songs are about this unrequited love, or the love that he had, or we assume he had, for someone who went to somebody else, and the loss of that person and the loss of that love. And you'll sort of see the range of emotions in these four songs that he was going through. You know, you have, of course, have all this sort of sadness and this sort of despair. And then we have these brief moments of sort of, you know, attempts to find happiness and joy, you know, as he walks through nature, for instance, as he's contemplating his life. You know, we have these bursts, these beautiful major bursts of wonderful bright sound, and that's to typify the nature that is around him as well. Mahler was very much big on typifying nature in his music and sort of representing it. So you'll see lots of that in these four songs. But they really sort of tell this very sad story of his like I said, we assume his personal loss of love. And the songs are very short, not too long, all sung in German. And we will have some translations for you in the program so that you can get a sense of what he was trying to say and trying to get you to understand. And the last song ends very unresolved. So we don't really know where things left off with him in terms of his emotions at that point. But it's four very, very beautiful early songs by Mahler. And it really sort of brings us with this theme of, we're representing Earth. And then we have this, this person who's sort of walking alone and wandering and wondering about life and love and all these sorts of concerns that many of us have in our everyday lives. So I'm sure you will absolutely fall in love with these songs. They're so beautiful, and they will be absolutely phenomenally sung by Danielle and played by our wonderful orchestra. And last on the program, like I said, what a program to start a music directorship with. We will end with The Planets by Gustav Holst. You're going to see quite a large orchestra on stage. We have triples of many of the woodwinds, quadruples. We have 6 horns, 3 trumpets. We have a full low brass section. We have a euphonium, a tenor tuba, very rarely scored into the orchestra. There's a bass flute scored into the orchestra as well. We have 2 harps. We have a celeste and organ player. We have, our regular large body of strings. And a wordless chorus that you will hear in the last movement, a female chorus that sings no words, that will bring us some representation of the vastness and the depth of the universe and of space, as Holst was trying to put forth in his music. Now, there are 7 movements to the planets. Why are there 7 movements? Good question. I just asked myself. So at the time the planets were composed, Pluto had not been discovered yet. Now, as it turns out, Pluto is no longer a planet. It is a dwarf planet. But yes, Pluto had not been discovered as of yet. And like I said before, he didn't write a movement for Earth itself. So we will play 7 movements. This is a 7-movement suite. We begin with Mars, the bringer of war. Mars is very famous, very typical of what you would think would be coming. It's a march, very foreboding, very dark, very menacing in its character, with little bits of some lyrical sort of swaths going through, but very much that, that sort of character. We then go to Venus, and Venus is the bringer of peace. And it's a beautiful movement, so wonderfully played. The principal French horn gets some absolutely gorgeous horn solos in this piece, in this particular movement. And then we have Mercury, the winged messenger. And Mercury is a little impish in a way. It's a bit of a scherzo and sort of whisks along with lots of interchanges within the woodwinds. It's brilliantly orchestrated and such fun to play because the instrumentation is constantly sort of changing around and sort of keeps throwing things at you. It's so much fun. And then, of course, we play the big Jupiter. Jupiter is probably the most famous of all the movements of the planets. Incidentally, it was one of the very first big pieces that I ever got to conduct as a young student. And it is absolutely a thrilling movement, especially with that chorale in the middle, that beautiful hymn. It's so gorgeous. It's so wonderful to play. Our musicians are playing it so well, and I'm sure you will enjoy every moment of Jupiter. After that, we will play Saturn, and Saturn is a dark movement. It's very, very dark. We have a lot of wonderful solos in this movement. We have some really sort of eerie chords played in the woodwinds, some double bass solos, which is another thing that was not that common, some wonderful chorales in the brass, a really, really powerful movement. And I think Saturn, aside from, of course, Jupiter, I think Saturn might be my favorite segment of the entire suite. And then we come to Uranus, and Uranus is sort of a very impish character, and very sort of not grotesque, but gets in your face. It's quite jaunty and mischievous, and it's a wonderful movement for the orchestra to play. It's nice, big, and loud music that we get to really, flex our muscles on. So that's quite enjoyable. And then, of course, we end with Neptune. Neptune is our last movement, and Neptune going sort of back to Saturn a little bit. We have some sort of these eerie chords that happen. We have we create this atmosphere of mystery and of the unknown and of the beyond. And because at the time, like I said, Neptune was the farthest planet that we knew of back in the early part of the 20th century. So we will have this very much unresolved sense of the unknown with Neptune is what you will feel. And then this is where we enter this wordless chorus, and you won't see them on stage. They're actually meant to be backstage. They sing on a single syllable, the from sun, the and they sing these beautiful, I kind of refer to them as space sirens, because you can imagine, looking out into the farthest reaches of space, perhaps with a radio telescope, and you hear all these sort of like pings and calls and these different, you can imagine what that would sound like to be off into the farthest, most deepest recesses of space that we knew of at the time, and what we would be able to imagine. So this wordless chorus kind of exemplifies that for us and personifies it. And we are so lucky to have the Voices Chamber Choir with us for this concert, with their artistic director, Ron Chung. And they sing beautifully, so beautifully, and they are really setting up the stage for us in this regard. I hope you come to the concert. We are going to enjoy it so much. It's my first concert as your new music director. I am so looking forward to getting on that stage and to seeing you all on Saturday night, April 9th at 8 p.m. at the Chinese Cultural Center of Greater Toronto in an absolutely beautiful hall. We are so lucky to play in this hall and to be part of this community. Thank you so much for your ongoing support and supporting the Cathedral Bluffs Symphony Orchestra, and we'll see you on Saturday night.